It's the Matt Sager Podcast, Thursday, November 8th. Week's almost over. Hope it's been a good one, but if not, it's almost over, so take heart. Unless, of course, like me, you live in New York City, in which case, welcome to another weekend full of rain. Rain's gonna start Friday night, and apparently stay with us through the weekend, so that's a bummer. I've got fun stuff going on this weekend, too. How about you? How's your weather and or what are your weekend plans? I know I'm doing lots of stuff at the gym. Without giving overly much away, I've been using Tinder, Bumble, and I will be testing the waters. Hopefully won't be abducted. Hopefully won't be catfished in too terrible a fashion. I'm actually expecting it's going to be really fun. I'm excited. You know, these apps are very cool. My only concern is that my Facebook account has been hacked so many times. I've been getting email after email from people in broken English, clearly Eastern Europeans, saying, I'm the guy who figured out your username is this and your password is that on some account, which I'm not going to name. And if you don't deposit 900 rubles to my Bitcoin account, I've been watching you and I know you're into this porn and this other type of porn and goats and sheep. And I'm going to take your browsing history and all your photos in iCloud and Dropbox and everywhere else and forward them to all your work acquaintances, your family, your friends and loved ones. And there have been a couple of reasons why I haven't acted on this. The first is that it's apparently a very common hoax, wherein people are able to delve into these databases where you've got long out-of-date emails, usernames, passwords, what have you. And that seems to be the case with me, where they did have a password and username I once used on some website that doesn't even exist anymore. Then there's the stuff about porn and sending it to my coworkers, relatives, family, etc. The most important weapon I have in my arsenal when I get blackmailed in this manner is that you could take the most outrageous pornography. I mean, shocking stuff. Like if you've ever seen the Key and Peele sketch, where Jordan Peele is sitting down and his girlfriend goes, hey, I've been watching your browser history. And like one little sweat gland on his forehead starts just like a geyser shooting out sweat. She goes, it's okay, I get it. I look at naked people too. You know, we're all human. And then he starts sweating even more profusely. And she goes, what, are you into kinky stuff? That's cool. I like kinky stuff. Now it's like a volcano of sweat is erupting from him. She goes, what, more than bondage? Now he's just gushing down his face. Horses? Now it's like a fire hose. Worse than horses? And then he just like explodes like a fire hydrant. It's very funny. But the thing is, if you were to send material like that to my friends, family, coworkers, they would be relieved. Like the perception that people have of me, even the ones who've worked with me, alongside me, my family members, the truth is I'm considered to be some kind of like hidden secret deviant. So there's really nothing on the internet that you could send to someone who employs me, someone in my immediate family or extended family, that would do anything but relieve them. Be it horses in bondage, whatever. It wouldn't affect me. Also, I'm a voice actor who has not signed any morality clauses. I'm not, say, a major spokesman for Disney or Kraft or Colgate or something, where my name is associated with them and them getting an email with pictures of donkeys wearing ball gags saying, this came from Matt Sager's email account, would matter. And I like to think that we live in a day and age where anonymous emails from Belarus purporting to contain my internet history and pornography, that people are sophisticated enough to know that that's just an attempt at blackmailing and or besmirching me. But mostly, I'm not going to be paying Bitcoin to anybody. Because first off, Bitcoin is so utterly valueless, I actually, like the idiot that I am, when it was skyrocketing at the end of 2017, I invested like a tiny amount of money in Bitcoin, came to regret it so fast. So anyone who's threatening me and asking for Bitcoin money, I get it. They can't ask for a bank transfer, but you're dealing with such a rank amateur idiot that it's like, you know what? Go ahead, send everybody everything. If they threaten me with ransomware and holding my data hostage, I mean, then I would get legitimately scared. But I've gotten enough of these emails, and I'd like to share this with you too, because it's very possible that you may end up on the receiving end of these emails. Apparently, this most recent Facebook hack is a big reason why they're going out so fast and furious. I've ignored now 4 such emails, almost all using the exact same language. I am the person who found your username and password. My, your photography tastes are quite spicy. I wonder what would happen if your employer were to find out. Let's make sure they don't by depositing 9,000 rubles in my big... Oh, go fuck yourself. Who cares? Send people pictures of the most horrific things ever and claim that they come from me. It is laughably easy for me to prove that they don't come from me. And by the way, suppose you found something awful on my hard drive, just pictures that make your blood curdle, and send them to my employer. If it doesn't mean that my rates go up, they don't care. They're fine. They have no complaints. They might even nudge me in the elevator. Hey, where'd you get that goat porn? I mean, out of curiosity, for research purposes. Not that I have a stash of awful, upsetting porn, or even much porn at all to speak of. But really, what an utterly silly threat. So, on to more fun, jovial, really exciting topics. I mentioned it last night that a Breaking Bad movie, a script that's been going around the Albuquerque film office under the code name. Like, you know how Star Wars was Blue Harvest, and then they used fake names for Return of the Jedi and The Empire Strikes Back to try and keep leaks from springing the way they did yesterday when the Hollywood Reporter leaked the news that there is a 2-hour Breaking Bad movie in the works. It's definitely helmed by Vince Gilligan. It's not clear whether it's going to feature Walt or Jesse. Rumor has it that it will almost certainly involve Jesse, but this is all just rumor. The only thing we've confirmed is that it is, in fact, a Breaking Bad movie. Where it will air, we don't even know that. Will it be in theaters? Will it air on AMC? Will it air on pay-per-view or Amazon Prime, Netflix? None of that is known. But as to the movie itself, we know for a fact it is in the works. And how do we know? Because the Dan Patrick Show had a special guest on who remarked on it.
Is there going to be a movie version of Breaking Bad?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, Dan.
Is there going to be?
In case you don't recognize that voice, which would surprise me quite a bit, that is, of course, Bryan Cranston, a.k.a. Walter White, a.k.a. Heisenberg. Say my name.
Is there going to be a movie version of Breaking Bad?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, Dan.
Is there going to be?
Yes, there appears to be a movie version of Breaking Bad, but I honestly have not even read the script. So
have you gotten the script?
Tell you, I have not gotten the script.
Okay.
I have not read the script. And so there's question of whether or not we would even see Walter White in this movie. Oh, think about that one.
Are you interested to play Walter White in the movie?
I would, absolutely.
He goes on to say that if Vince Gilligan's involved, he's involved because Gilligan is a genius. And yet he hasn't received the script, does not know, or is claiming to not know, and he's got no reason to lie. If he just doesn't know, that's all he needs to say. He doesn't know whether Walter's going to be a character, doesn't know whether it's going to dive deep into Jesse's future. That is the rumor that I'm hearing the most of, but I want to really, really drive this point home. Everything is rumor, innuendo, speculation until someone specifically says otherwise. But that speculation and those rumors are to the effect that it's going to be Jesse after that final scene, which I'm not going to spoil for you if, God forbid, you're listening to this podcast and you haven't yet watched the final episode of Breaking Bad. But Jesse makes a rather dramatic departure from the screen into a future that I've thought about many times. Every time I've rewatched that episode, every time I've done a binge rewatching of all of Breaking Bad, which I've done more than I'm really willing to admit. It's just such a great show. And sometimes I'll just be watching Aaron Paul and something else, or hear his voice on BoJack Horseman and go, wow, whatever happened to Jesse? And if that is what this script, this movie codenamed Greenbrier, turns out to be, that will be awesome. But as has been made very clear from not only Breaking Bad, but the previous 4 seasons of Better Call Saul and what I know of so far of what to expect in season 5 of Better Call Saul, that whatever story Gilligan chooses to tell, with whatever characters, old and new, in whatever timelines, past or future, it's going to be amazing. There's only one thing I would caution you. When telling people about this movie, when thinking you've got it all worked out, what the plot of the movie's going to be, whether it takes place in the past, present, or future, whether it's going to have Jonathan Banks returning as Mike, Giancarlo Esposito as Gus, RJ Mitty making up breakfast for the family, before you leap to any such conclusions, I would simply caution you.
Tread lightly.
Always tread lightly, but I can't wait to learn more about the movie. Specifically, all I really want to know is when is it coming out? You know what? Keep the plot secret, keep the cast, the details. Like, we know it's shooting in Albuquerque, so it's fairly likely that it's going to feature at least some of the characters that we've known and loved from Breaking Bad and or Better Call Saul. Although it could be the white supremacists from the late episodes of Breaking Bad. Could be any number of things. Could be the secret life of Hank and Marie. I know that it will be genius because, as Cranston said, and you don't want to fuck with Heisenberg, Vince Gilligan is a genius and it's going to be fantastic. I just want to know when it's coming out so I can start counting the days. I also wanted to touch on something else on tonight's episode of the Matt Sager podcast. I'd mentioned earlier in the week that news has been coming through about the Disney streaming service. I did a whole episode last week about what the hell is going on with Disney. The Netflix series are being canceled right and left. There's a Star Wars animated series called Star Wars Resistance that's terrible. And I came to the conclusion in having my sort of inner monologue via this podcast that, you know, if you've ever gotten ready to move and like you still got to live in your apartment, but you got to be ready to pack up and leave at a moment's notice, that appears to be the state of Disney right now. Certainly the state of their Marvel and Star Wars franchises. That, all right, well, let's start canceling stuff on Netflix. Let's do a final season of Daredevil. That looks like it is going to be the final season. One more for Jessica Jones. And then, as I've learned, you know, for the past several years, especially these most recent years where there's been Marvel Netflix original programming, you've been able to see Marvel movies on Netflix all over the place. Doctor Strange, The Avengers, Captain America, the First Avenger, Thor Ragnarok, and seeing all those on Netflix at one point or another over the past year. It turns out that the final Marvel movie to air on Netflix is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp, at which point they're going to cancel all the shows, pull all their programming, and move it all over to the Disney streaming service, which does not yet have a launch date, other than toward the end of 2019. The first Marvel movie that's going to make its debut on that service, I mean, after it, of course, has its run in theaters, but that will go right to the Disney streaming service, presumably exclusively, before Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, etc., if in fact they go to those platforms at all. That first movie that's going to be a Disney streaming service exclusive will be, of course, Captain Marvel. Also, as has already been reported about this streaming service, there's going to be at least 3 Marvel original series that we know of. There's going to be a Loki show that is presumably going to star Tom Hiddleston, a Scarlet Witch show, which, again, this is all not etched in stone, but almost certainly going to star Elizabeth Olsen, and then a Winter Soldier Falcon series with Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier and Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson the Falcon. As for Star Wars, if you took a look at Star Wars Resistance and said, wow, this is clearly a temporary measure just to keep something on the air with the Star Wars name and simply getting by while spending as little as possible on this shitty product, you would be guessing right, because there's no word as to whether or not that show will be making its way over to the Disney streaming service. But we do know that the Clone Wars has been revived for a season 7, which is awesome. Clone Wars is one of my favorite Star Wars things of the last 20 years. I like it so much more than the prequels. There isn't a number to quantify it. I like it a great deal more than the recent films. I enjoy it tremendously more than The Last Jedi, a lot more than Solo, which, look, you know, Solo is one of these unfortunate things where people are taking these very radical political stances on it, because it is true, it had a rather progressive character in making Lando a pansexual. And a lot of people are up in arms about that, just as there are a lot of people defending it. There are a surprisingly few number of people going, this movie was fairly bad. You can clearly see where one director was fired, or I guess it was actually a team of 2 directors, but where the directing team was fired and replaced by Ron Howard. You can see where the writers succeeded and failed at congealing a story together. And you see just all these missed opportunities and these edits that really should have been made. But because these scenes were already in place and you'd have to go rewrite the entire script or just spend months cutting and delaying the release, that you ended up with a very flawed piece of film. That's just the simple truth. For what it's worth, my opinion about Lando being pansexual is that it's great. It does not redeem the movie, just as it's not anything to do with why the movie is so very, very disappointing. But so the future of Marvel and Disney is on this as yet unnamed Disney streaming service. There's a rumor, again with the rumors, be careful, do not trust, or trust but verify. In this case, I would say take it with a fraction of a grain of salt. But there is a rumor that the service is going to be called Disney Play. I'm guessing that is a lie. Either one spread by rumor mongers on the internet or spread by rumor mongers, this is very possible, at Disney. You know, just as Star Wars went by the name Blue Harvest until it was time for release, and just as they tried to keep the Breaking Bad movie under wraps by calling it Greenbrier. That if anything, if Disney's running around planting rumors, telling people offhandedly, letting it be known that there's a likelihood that the service will be called Disney Play, it's because it's going to be called something else entirely. That's my take anyway. Also, it runs a bit of a risk of being mistaken for Google Play, although not a huge risk. But it's awfully generic for what Disney is apparently banking on being their main digital distribution network from 2019 forward. I would think they'd go with something radically more exciting than, Disney Play. It's just sort of lackluster. And like I said about Google, has not done much for them. So, if you hear anything about the name of this service, specifically if you hear the name Disney Play, take it with a little pinch of salt. As to the price of the service, they haven't announced that yet. They've only gone so far as to say it's going to be cheaper than Netflix. Now, let's see. Netflix has a couple of different price tiers. There's the standard, very basic plan of $7.99 per month, one screen, standard definition. For standard definition and 2 screens, it's $10.99 a month. And the plan that I'm on, because I love me some Netflix, is the beefiest one, the one with all the bells and whistles, the one where you get to watch in Ultra HD, up to 4 screens, and that's $13.99. My guess is Disney's playing a little bit fast and loose when they say they're going to be cheaper than Netflix, and what they mean is they're going to be cheaper than that tier, the top tier. So that could mean that they're $12.99, it could mean that they're $13 and no cents, could be that they debut at $10. You know, we know very little about what other original programming they're going to debut with. If it's like DC Universe, let's just say I hope they learn from DC Universe. I keep giving that a try, and it's not good. There are going to be some original films. This we know. There's going to be a live-action Lady and the Tramp. Okay, that I would actually really watch. I love dogs. They're going to be voiced by Tessa Thompson and Justin Theroux. There's going to be a live-action Peter Pan, Sword in the Stone, and some remakes of, Parent Trap, 3 Men and a Baby, Father of the Bride, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And then there's going to be some original programming that we know of already. There will be series based on Mighty Ducks, Monsters, Inc., High School Musical, and a female-fronted High Fidelity. I don't know that High Fidelity really has the makings of a series. I didn't love the film. I liked the book. Didn't love it, enjoyed it. But of course, the cool thing about adaptations is they build on and often move very far away from the source material. They're already gender swapping it. They could take this germ of an idea that made for an okay book and a so-so movie and make it a spectacular series. Honestly, I really expect that kind of high-quality programming from Disney these days. Look, say what you will about superhero movies, but when you go to a Marvel film, you are guaranteed quality. That has not changed yet, and I don't see it changing anytime soon, with the one exception, as I've said, about a built-in plot hole that is evident in the trailer for Captain Marvel. And yet, I've got such faith in these people that I still believe even Captain Marvel's going to be a great movie. So, I hate to be one of these Marvel zombies, and even worse, a Disney zombie, a Walking Dead mouse. But I've got faith in Disney, and I'm excited to see these new series. I hope that they do very, very well and that I can afford them. Get in touch with the Matt Sager Podcast. Email matt@mattsager.com or call 646-535-4788. Or hit me up on social media. On Twitter, I'm @MattSager. Instagram, Real Matt Sager. Facebook, The Matt Sager, where I've also got a voiceover page, Matt Sager VO. Also, be a pal and check out my Patreon. It's in the description for this podcast episode, but it is also a very easy to remember URL, patreon.com/Matt Sager. And for more social media links, as well as my voiceover reels, contact info, more episodes of this podcast, articles, blog posts, and more, you can head on over to mattsagervoiceover.com.